Hey everyone, Krista Moser here. Today I'm going to teach you a couple of tips and tricks on how to join the ends of your binding and the ends of your borders. So when we cut strips from salvage to salvage, a lot of times we have to join the ends, and sometimes it can get wonky and offset. It's nice to join them with the diagonal seam because it's the most discreet, but that can cause some problems until I started using this tool. This is the folded corner clipper. It's from Creative Grids. I just started using this and it's quickly becoming a favorite. So I thought I'd show you what I'm doing. I've got a couple of strips here that I plan to use as borders. Now these are 4 inches wide and I've got 2 layers. This tool will work up to 5 inches. So I'm just going to layer them up, single layer here. My salvage ends matched up. I'm going to do one on top of the other. Pretty sides up on both of them. So here we have matched. And the way this tool works, so I'm just going to lay it down here. Now I'm going to trim this off because I want my fuzz gone so I can get a nice clean line. So I'm just going to line that up on the bottom of the strip, and this I'll just trim the salvage off here like that. Now, because my strips are 4 inches, I'm going to find the 4-inch line here, and it's got this little return line going up the side. So since I cleaned that off, I have a nice fresh 90-degree angle here. So I'm going to do the 4-inch along here, and that little return up there, and I'm just going to trim this here. That's junk. Now, because both of those strips were facing up, here is how they join. So I'll turn one around, just like that. So, perfect angles. And I've got my 1/4 inch because of that little line. So I'm going to do my seam here, and I have that perfect 1/4 inch to match up on both edges. So once that's sewn, I can press it open, and this will be nice and straight. And sometimes that's where it gets wonky. If all you're doing, you know, the typical ways, you would have a strip like this, and you would match the other here, and then we would just kind of draw a line or just kind of wing it, sewing point to point. But that's where sometimes these strips end up really wonky. So with this little tool, doing just what I showed you, you get that perfect angle, and then you can join them together. Now, another way to use this is when you're sewing your binding on. You've got your binding sewn all the way around a piece, and you've got the 2 tail ends to join those together. That's where everything gets wonky. Sometimes it's lumpy, extra fabric, not enough quilt, very frustrating. So now that you've seen that, I'm going to show you how I use the same tool to join the ends of my binding. So imagine this is a quilt, and I've sewn it all the way around, and then I've got my 2 tails, and I need to join these together. Now, here's what you do. I leave an opening of about 10 to 12 inches. I want lots of room, and it really will help once I go to figure this joint out. So, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to lay this one out flat, lined up. Now my binding strips are cut 2.5 inches, and so I think I'm going to cut some of this excess off. I'm just going to use my scissors and kind of eyeball a nice straight line, just like that, about halfway across. And my strips are 2.5 inches, so I'm just going to kick this one up so I can see where that end is. Because what I want to do is an overlap of 2.5 inches. So I need to measure from that cut 2.5 inches over, and I'm going to trim this top strip to be 2.5 inches of overlap. So I think I'll use my ruler here. I can use the 2.5 inch line. That's 2. Here's the 2.5 inch line, just like that. And I'm just going to draw a line. Yeah. Okay. Now I see where to trim. Use the edge of the ruler. Okay. Now you see. It's an overlap of 2.5 inches. Now here comes the trick. I'm going to take both these strips, open them up, just like this, and this. And because I can kind of stack them, both of them are facing up, pretty side up, go in the same direction. I can kind of wad up my quilt a little bit. This is why it helps to have about 10 or 12 inches of open space there. All right, now I'm just going to use this 2.5 inch line, a little return here, through both layers. That's junk. Just like that. So here, I'm ready to sew. And because of using that tool with that 1/4 inch flat, that gives me my seam allowance. So I can put some straight pins in here. And it will be ready to sew. So your 1/4 inch seam, you'd press it out. I've actually done that to the other side so you can kind of see. Press it out. Did this earlier. So here it is, a perfect join. And all that open space. Now, what you do, once you've pressed it out, and you've got to stitch up this open space here, I'm going to put some straight pins in there. Put one here, one here, and then one more. And we have a good match here. Here's a trick. If you've got too much binding, even if it's just a little bit baggy, doesn't have to be much. If it's just a little bit baggy, you put your straight pins in your opening, and then when you go to your sewing machine, turn your piece over like this so that your baggy binding is towards your feed dogs. What will happen is as you're sewing along here, your feed dogs will do all the work of easing up any little excess bulk or lumpiness that comes out in the binding. But using this tool eliminates a lot of that. Eliminates all of it, actually. I've been really impressed. Once you've got this here, again, you're going to join those, sew it, press it out. It'll look like this. Pin, pin, pin. And if it's a little bit lumpy even still, put this side towards your feed dogs and sew it up. Pretty clever. I'm pretty impressed. This is a favorite tool for sure. It's the folded corner clipper. I hope that helped. Give it a try.